I never thought a single conversation could shatter everything I believed about my life. But that was before Claire, my wife, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I regret every day with you. That's why I opened our marriage." The words didn't just hit me. They tore through me, leaving a hollow space where trust used to live. I remember the moment like it was yesterday. We were in the living room of the apartment we had painstakingly turned into our home, the walls echoing years of laughter, arguments, and quiet Sunday mornings. And yet, all of that felt like a lie now. I was Ethan, 36, managing a gym in Phoenix, Arizona. I prided myself on being steady, dependable, the guy people could rely on. Claire was everything I wasn't. Spontaneous, magnetic, sharp-tongued, and unapologetically bold. Our first years together were a whirlwind of excitement. Late-night drives, random weekend getaways, laughter so loud it woke the neighbors. I thought I had her heart, and in return, she had mine entirely. But as the years dragged on, the spark faded, replaced by routines and distance I didn't understand. It started slowly, almost imperceptibly. Hugs became side hugs. Kisses were quick and automatic, and intimacy, once the glue that bound us, vanished. I tried to rationalize it, blaming stress, her workload, the normal ebb and flow of marriage. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. When I finally brought up, cautiously, carefully, I expected conversation, a shared concern, maybe a plan to reconnect. Instead, I got her infamous sigh, a hollow excuse about not thinking that way anymore, and that I should just accept it. Weeks passed like that, a steady drip of coldness and rejection. I stopped asking, stopped hoping. I withdrew, burying my emotions in work, in long hours at the gym, in the mechanical movements of my life. And then came Natalie, Claire's younger sister, 28, recently out of a long-term relationship, vibrant and untamed. She needed a place to stay while looking for a new apartment, and reluctantly, I agreed. Claire was thrilled. I, however, braced myself for the chaos. From the moment Natalie arrived, the air changed. She was loud, carefree, always barefoot, leaving traces of her presence everywhere. Spotify playlists lingering in the living room, half-eaten cereal boxes on the counter, spontaneous laughter echoing down the hallway. She reminded me of what life felt like before the coldness set in, a mirror of vitality I hadn't realized I'd been missing. At first, I kept my distance, observing quietly, trying to ignore the subtle stirrings her presence invoked. But every day, the contrast between Natalie's warmth and Claire's detachment became painfully clear. The room, once our sanctuary, now felt like a battlefield of emotions I couldn't contain. The first week was the hardest. I found myself replaying Claire's confession over and over in my mind, trying to pinpoint the moment I had failed. "I regret every day with you." The words haunted me, echoing in every quiet corner of our apartment. I started noticing things I had ignored for years. The way she didn't meet my gaze when we spoke, the subtle roll of her eyes at my jokes, the way her phone seemed to hold more of her attention than I ever could. Every detail, every glance, every sigh became a dagger. Natalie, on the other hand, was a storm in human form. She talked without filters, laughed at her own jokes, and had this way of making even the most mundane moments feel alive. One evening, she found me sitting in the living room, staring at the muted TV, barely moving. She plopped down beside me, a bowl of popcorn in hand. "You're brooding again," she said, nudging my shoulder with a smirk. I tried to shrug it off, but she persisted, her gaze piercing, unrelenting. It wasn't just curiosity. It was a force, a challenge I hadn't felt in years. Meanwhile, Claire's distance didn't waver. She drifted through our home like a shadow, her presence cold, her words sharp and detached. Dinner conversations felt like interrogations, with her eyes skimming over me, seeing only what she wanted to see. And the confession, it wasn't just a statement. It was a weapon. I could feel the calculated cruelty behind it. She didn't just want space. She wanted dominance, the upper hand, and she made no effort to hide it. Every night, as I lay awake on the couch, the contrast between her emptiness and Natalie's vibrancy twisted inside me. Then came the moment I realized something dangerous. The lines were shifting. Natalie's laughter, her teasing glances, her unabashed energy. It was slowly breaking through the armor I had built around myself. I caught myself waiting for her reactions, craving her validation, noticing the way she lingered near me in the kitchen, offering small smiles that seemed to say, "I see you." My chest tightened each time Claire's icy presence collided with Natalie's warmth. The apartment, once a home of shared memories, had become a stage where I felt like a spectator of my own life. One rainy evening, the tension reached a peak. Claire was curled up on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging me. Natalie wandered into the room, soaked from the rain, her hair sticking to her face, eyes sparkling with mischief. She looked at me, genuinely concerned, and said, "You're too good for her, Ethan. You don't deserve this coldness." It wasn't flattery, it was truth. And in that moment, I realized the depth of betrayal I had endured, the suffocating weight of years spent trying to salvage something that had been poisoned long before Natalie arrived. The days that followed felt like a slow unraveling. Claire's detachment remained absolute, but Natalie's presence began to stir something I hadn't felt in years. Hope, excitement, a flicker of life where numbness had ruled. One evening, I found myself laughing at something trivial she had said, the sound strange but liberating after months of silence. I caught a glimpse of Claire from the corner of my eye, her face unreadable, a storm of indifference that only made the contrast sharper. It was during one of those quiet moments that Claire dropped another bomb. She turned to me mid-dinner, her voice casual yet piercing. "Ethan, I don't think this is working. I'm done trying. And opening our marriage is the only way I could survive these last few years with you." The words cut deep in the first confession because they carried not just regret, but defiance. She wasn't asking for understanding. She was issuing a decree. I felt a strange calm descend over me. The anger, the hurt, it was still there, but beneath it, clarity emerged. I didn't need to beg her to stay. I didn't need to fight for love that had already left. Natalie noticed my silence. She placed a hand on mine across the table, grounding me, and said softly, "You deserve better. Don't let her choices define your life." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. In that moment, I realized that the choice wasn't mine to make anymore. Claire had made hers, and it was painfully clear. The marriage I had fought for, dreamed about, and invested my heart into was gone. What remained was the power to reclaim myself. Over the next few weeks, I withdrew emotionally from Claire while maintaining civility in the household. She noticed, of course. The smugness in her eyes faltered slightly, replaced by a flicker of irritation. She couldn't understand that her coldness no longer held power over me. My interactions with Natalie, however, were becoming something unspoken yet undeniable, a connection rooted in authenticity, laughter, and shared vulnerability. She became my anchor, a reminder that warmth and care could exist outside of betrayal. The climax came quietly, without fireworks or dramatic confrontations. Claire finally left, carrying her arrogance and regrets with her. And in the silence she left behind, the apartment felt different, lighter, freer. Natalie and I didn't rush, didn't declare anything prematurely. Instead, we settled into the space left open by her absence, discovering that trust, laughter, and intimacy could still exist even after betrayal. I learned something invaluable through all of this. Sometimes the people we think we can't live without are the very ones holding us back. And sometimes salvation comes quietly in the form of someone who reminds us what it means to feel alive again. Claire's confession could have destroyed me, but instead it became the catalyst for my awakening. And as I looked at Natalie one evening, sharing a quiet joke while rain pattered against the windows, I realized that life, even after heartbreak, could still be extraordinary.